I felt like when I realized that I wanted to do this, it was like you were obviously the first guest for so many reasons. Like obviously we're great friends and we've known each other for a really long time, but also because I feel like you're this like really powerful businesswoman in a different space than me, but doing the same kind of work that I'm doing. But we never talk about it.
No, we don't.
No. Yeah.
We're too busy catching up on our personal lives when we get together.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about kids, travel, men, our men.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about this.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to talk to you and ask you questions about business and that, like your business side, because you've got so much experience and that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Can I get you to introduce yourself maybe?
Sure. My name is Nikki Van Duyvendyk. I am a co-owner in Dutch Growers Garden Center in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's a local family-owned business that started in 1953. So we're 70 years old this year. My grandparents started it. They came from Holland with their suitcases and started it as a tree farm. And now it's developed into a whole lifestyle store of home, garden, and fashion. And yeah, we're really proud of what it's grown into.
Yeah. And an incredibly successful store.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very successful, multi-generational store. Yeah. I think one thing that's made it super successful is what my early grandparents have always taught us. And that change is good, which is, I feel like someone from 70 years ago, you always think of your grandparents not wanting change and, not wanting to move things in different directions. And that's actually the opposite of what he taught us.
Yeah.
And to this day, we all believe that's why we're still in business.
Is change.
Is because we are always pushed to change and to evolve. And that's not normal, I don't think, in today's world with multi-generational businesses.
Yeah. Like staying the same is so risky in business.
Very, very risky.
Especially today.
Yeah.
Right? So I almost think yes, human nature, we don't want to change. It feels scary. It's risky. It's something different. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But staying the same is probably like a death pill these days, I think.
Absolutely. I'm always I was just saying yesterday on my drive home, what's next? What is next? I'm getting too comfortable. And that's always my first inkling of something else has got to happen. We've got to figure out something new. And the world is changing so much right now, I feel like. And there's so many avenues to look at. And it's just sort of choosing that, next direction.
Okay. So when you were growing up, it was your grandparents' shop?
It was.
And
Yeah.
your parents...
And my dad and his brother and sister were all owners. So yeah. And I've been, I'd been working in the company since literally I could walk and sit up, and my parents actually kind of forced us to work, which I didn't know how much I liked that growing up because none of my friends had to work, but we really did. They did force us to work.
Yeah.
And I did resent my parents a lot for that. And they did make us pay for mostly everything since I've been in grade 6. And I did resent my parents for that at that time because all my friends were getting everything. But now I look back and I see what a gift that has been to me.
Yeah.
And the work ethic that I developed. And, my parents always instilling in us that, everybody's watching you when you're working. When I was a teenager, they're looking at you and watching you. You need to work the hardest, the fastest, the most efficient, and with a smile on your face, and I've always heard those words in my head whenever I was working. And then my parents did praise us, and say, you guys priced those, that pallet of boxes way faster than some of our other people that were here. And so they would praise us and give us credit for the good things that we did. And I think that, when you get praise as a young kid, you remember that and that sticks into you and it helps build you as a person. And I just think that it's a risk that they took pushing us like that at a young age, but I know I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. And same thing for like my parents. So my parents had a pizza place growing up, and Friday, Saturday nights, which is like your whole social life happens on Friday and Saturday nights when you're that age. But Friday and Saturday nights, I was at the pizza shop.
Yeah.
I worked really, really hard as a teenager and resented it.
Yep.
Did not understand, and like also I think my parents also had a motivation of keeping me a little bit out of trouble. I think it was a twofold, right? Plus they also probably just needed the help to run the business.
Yep.
But it was the best thing in hindsight, looking back on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now you own this business with your sister and your parents,
Yep.
and 3 generations in.
3 generations in, 70 years later, here we are.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what do you like about that? Like what are some of the pros of having the multi-generational business behind you? And I imagine there's cons too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pros. I mean, right now the company can run with, we've established ourselves, so we don't have as many owners involved. There's only 3 of us that are owners. And so that has enabled us to actually hire a management team and hire them for, the people that are going to do the best at each individual sector of our business, which was really, really exciting for us to be able to do. Yeah. And which has given us more time.
Because it sounds like, okay, like there's lots of history.
Yeah.
You talk about grandparents, advocate of change and growth.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the work ethic with your parents, right? Like that sounds like having that solid of a foundation and history is huge. Having that brand, I think, to start with is huge.
Yeah.
Right? But is there sometimes do you want to try to do something very different than although fashion is very different than what Dutch Growers was.
Yeah.
What was that like when you said, okay, I want to bring fashion into this space?
There was a little bit of pushback because it was nothing that we did.
Right.
But again, we do have that upbringing of like change is good and let's always try new things. So it actually started off with, we would go to trade shows for our home department, giftware department, which has kind of been in the business for a longer time. And as we were starting to go to those trade shows, we were starting to see a little bit of fashion ending up at them. And so then of course, like my mom and I would be there and I would get excited. And so we'd say like, okay, let's try. Just by trying a small amount of products and listening to the customers and seeing what their reaction was and kind of going from there.
So it was really just because you were interested in it, not necessarily because you felt you wanted to diversify the business.
Well, yeah, I was interested in it. And also if we looked at our clientele, it was mostly women.
Right.
And I feel like if I had an interest in it, maybe some other people would. And so that's why just starting really small and not, just going gung ho and buying, putting 2,000 square feet full of fashion instantly, just starting and testing it, little tests and seeing what the reactions are with customers. Yeah. And then, going back to the trade shows and looking for new things. And really it started off just trying to look for the most unique products. Unique, something different. Like we started off with like these shoes with these curly heels. Like this was like way over a decade ago, but just looking for something that people had never seen and that would spark their attention. And it just has grown from there. And now we're, 5,000 square feet of fashion. Wow. And it's so important to the company because we are slower in the fall, winter. Because you don't buy as many plants, obviously. You're not planting in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and our minus 40. But you can buy fashion, you can buy the home decor. We sell Christmas in the wintertime. So just looking for ways to diversify.
Yeah.
When you maybe have an off time. So
cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash flow for seasonal or peak and it's really, really important.
Yeah.
So backing up to hiring, like recently you said you've had to hire a management team to just kind of deal with different aspects of the business versus the family doing it all. Mm-hmm. What type of positions did you have to hire?
Like the positions that we hired were a plants manager, fashion manager, marketing manager, director of finance. Yeah, just those were kind of some of the main ones. Now with my dad slowly retiring, looking at someone that can run our tree shrub, like our nursery department,
Right.
and the plant solutions with all the chemicals and fertilizers, and just kind of building up those experts in the community.
Right.
Because, you know, being in Saskatoon for 70 years, we have kind of built ourselves up to be the experts on, you know, home garden fashion, and especially, you know, the garden aspect.
Right.
My grandpa and my father and my sister and I have like all grown up and have been helping customers, and we have a radio show every week that we do, and we're always available for the media to answer questions, to, you know, help the community solve, you know, any of their agricultural problems.
Right.
And that's a huge investment that we put out to the community, but we think it's really important to give back in that way.
Right.
And to be, you know you answer a call and you know that person's at Canadian Tire and they're buying, they're asking you what chemical to buy for their plants. But you know what? You spend that time and you give them the answers, and the fact that they thought of you to call, I think is what's most important.
Yeah.
And,
Hiring these experts or leaders or managers and directors for your business, what are you looking for?
we're looking for, someone that can be independent, can learn on the job, because in that position, we're just not going to have time to be standing with them every step of the way and teaching every single little thing. Right. So being able to be self-taught and evolve. And I'm also looking for someone that the reason why I don't want them to know and have me buy them, or, you know, my sister or my dad buy them every single day, is because I want to see what new things that they can bring to the business.
Right.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
I love I call it like a fresh face that comes in, or a fresh new employee, because they're not stuck in any of the old ways.
Yeah.
And those first few weeks that they come in, I want to grow from them too. So, taking that opportunity, but, a huge part of our company is building a culture. So we have a really amazing culture of just a family almost, and to fit within that is very, very, very important.
Right.
And, those are kind of some of the things that we're looking for.
So family, fresh perspectives and ideas, and really just not someone that's coming in with bad habits.
Yeah.
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 I think that also, like, when we do a lot of hiring, obviously, but I think that was one of my biggest misconceptions going in hiring people, is I always thought, okay, like 10, 15, 20, 30 years experience is a good thing. And oftentimes in like very technical roles, for sure, like there's nothing in a very technical role. There's only one way to learn, and that's to do it. So 10, 15, 20 years of doing something gives you a really solid foundation. But there's not so many people that come through that 10, 20, 30 years of experience and have a growth mindset, or willing to learn and develop, right? So if you can have that experience in your space and still have the mindset of like growth and learning, then fine. That's the perfect world. That's a perfect job candidate. But it's rare.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get set in your ways when you've done something for 20 years or 10 years even.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm getting that space and I'm 20 years in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of, like, when you're doing some hiring, what are some of your kind of tricks and that you've learned over the years for finding that, you know, perfect employee?
I mean, like, I think I could recite all the things, right? Like, you know, someone who's taking credit for entire teams worth of work. Because I'm hiring business unit managers. I'm hiring someone to come in and manage a function, a crew, a team of people, or a full business in most cases. And so typically you're looking for what type of leader they are, and the red flags, the usual red flags everybody talks about. You know, if they're talking about all this work that they did without talking about the people around them, that's usually a bit of an issue from a value perspective, right? But so there's lots of different like common mistakes or good practices and things like that I could talk about. But I would say like the number one thing that I've learned is values. So like, again, there's some technical stuff that you just need. But from a value perspective, like those are the people that make it and end up being rock stars. Values in the way that I work, that I look for, is continuous improvement or a growth mindset. So someone who's always looking, regardless of where they're at or what they're doing, they're always looking at ways to make it better. Like, and that's a huge way in how I like live my life. Like it's a core value of who I am. And I notice that I just have so much better flow and momentum with teams and managers that have that mindset. So I think that's a really important one. Valuing people, like ultimately what we do is people. So I think people who genuinely respect and appreciate the customer is a big one. And then your own, like your peers and your teams and things like that, Remy.
So if you were going to give advice to someone like you back then, kind of in this like a similar situation, coming into a big company as, you know, a young person, just, you know, maybe hasn't done all their education yet, what would be your advice now that you can look back on it?
Yeah. See, it's a tough one because I had to, what I was going to say is like, I had to deal with more bullshit than I probably should have had to have. Right. But I'm hoping that now, 20 years later.
Are you talking like woman
Yes.
BS?
Yeah.
Because you're a woman in construction or other things?
Woman in construction.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I don't think it necessarily would have mattered. And it's not even just woman. It's like a minority. Like anytime you're in a space where your peers are not there, it's a little bit more lonely. It's a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go like the stuff like I used to hear about, like never anything like that.
Yeah.
I was never like sexually harassed, maybe the odd stupid comment or something, but I could handle it, right?
Yeah.
It was nothing really like that. For me, it was just always being like misjudged and underestimated, which to a point I was okay with, but eventually it got old.
Yeah.
Eventually it's like, okay, like I've earned my space here times 10. This is a you problem. This isn't a me problem anymore. Can you just go deal with your shit? Like eventually it gets to that point, right? Like, so I guess like what I would want to say to my 25-year-old self about to go into finance to operations, I would want to say like, don't deal with shit because you shouldn't have to. But the reality is you do need to deal with shit and to be able to kind of handle it as gracefully as possible and then move on. So that's the reality is there's still bullshit to deal with, and that's not gonna, like, it's gotten a lot better. It will continue to get better, but you're still going to come across tough personalities and you're still going to be underestimated. You're still going to get talked over in meetings. You're like, all that stuff is just still going to happen. It happens to me today, and I've kind of feel like at least in this role, I've earned my space.
And it's almost like how your mindset goes from being in those situations. You can either choose to, you know, feel sorry for yourself and bring yourself down or you can just say, you know what, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to grow from this and, you know, and move forward in a positive way. Yeah. And that's obviously what you did.
Yes. Good. It polished my mindset, but I don't know what it did more than that even, Nikki, is it made me like, I never walked into a meeting half prepared. Like I could like sense that I didn't get to fail. I didn't get to like not know, not handle myself, like not know exactly what we're talking about, not read the contract, not whatever, right? Like I didn't have that opportunity and that made me better. Again, so we talk about, well, it kind of sucked that we had to work so hard as kids. But holy, did that develop something that like we'll have with us forever, and same thing, right? So I think to the 25-year-old person, I would say like, it's going to be a blast. You're going to have so much fun and learn so much. And like, just know, like I would say, find your people. That's the difference between like 25-year-old me and me today where I am is like, I know women that work in the space that I do, that I just have my support network a little bit. So instead of like, just bearing the weight of the stupid comment made in a meeting, rolling my eyes to myself about getting cut off in a meeting. Now I just like send a text or call a friend and, you know, you have support in going through some of the tough stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pavan, one thing that you said about your story of just like how you got brought in to do some of the financial planning, or I can't remember exactly what you said, but I was just thinking when you said those words, I'm like, as a small business owner, those are the luxuries that we don't often get is, someone with these specific abilities to come in and, put together processes in our company, or, put together all of our HR documents, or, just different little things. And I think that's, or put together marketing plans and focus on that. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of us like smaller companies make, is because we think because we're small, we can't bring people in or bring some contract work in or get those jobs done. And we just kind of like go, well, we can't, like, we're not a big corporation. Like, we can't have that. And so we just keep going. And then I think that's one of the reasons why we don't evolve and we don't grow into be bigger companies, is because we feel like we're not big enough to have those kind of people come in, or we don't even know that that's an option.
Yeah.
And we just think that this is a struggle that we always have to face. And, I think that's just one of the things I've learned, and I'm still learning as I'm growing in my, business knowledge. And, one thing I'm going to mention what's next. And one thing I find about business is like even when you think you know everything, the economy changes or something changes, and you always have got to be on your toes, and you're kind of relearning everything, like COVID, for example.
Yeah.
We all had to go online, and we all had to, figure out how to work as a smaller group, and just all the different things, and keeps us on our toes. And I think that's what business can always keep us excited and keep us learning. So
I was going to say though, so I agree, right? Like, you don't always have full-time people to like designate to human resources or marketing or safety and environment or whatever the case is, right? But there is consultants that will do that kind of work for you. And then, but also it's also kind of a good thing. So because I work for a multinational corporation, there's like very stringent processes and procedures and systems that don't really work for every unique situation, right?
Or every little business within that company.
Exactly. And like we're in construction, which is very seasonal in Saskatchewan. It's not seasonal across the world.
Yeah.
So like I would say our like vacation policies and our RSP policies for our hourly people don't make sense really for the type of work that we do. We have folks that work 12 to 14 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, from May 15th to October 31st or whatever the case is. Like, that's like, our policies and procedures don't always make sense for that type of work situation, but I can't change them because it is a multinational corporation. So that is an advantage that Dutch growers and other companies have, is you can come up with very specific policies and procedures, and like when they don't work anymore, change them.
A lot of companies don't know that those even exist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
We get up to 110 employees for a short amount of time in our seasonal, like our busy spring season.
Yeah.
And you do have to have, a lot of these things in place, and to make it a good work environment. And so I think that's like some of the biggest things that we're trying to work on now, is just kind of getting things better in place now that, our companies, I feel like, at the next level of, with management roles, that we as owners can now have time to look at some of these other things. We're not so focused on, the day to day, which is so important.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's also a mistake that so many small businesses make, is they don't get to the place that you're at now. They don't ever hire the managers or spend the money. They're very comfortable in the day to day, and maybe they feel like their margins aren't enough to like warrant bringing somebody in, but not really understanding the cost of not bringing somebody into. And there's a balance, right? Like, you need to ultimately make enough money and have it make sense. But yeah, I think I see that a lot with small businesses. So you mentioned COVID briefly.
Yeah.
So talk to me about being in retail when COVID hit, and what had to change, how you guys got through, what's lasting from those changes.
Yeah. Wow, that was a pivot. We went from, having to shut our doors to, I remember the conversation of like, let's stop all of our credit cards, like, because we do pre-orders for everything. We're booking, 6 months to a year in advance for our products and committing to those products. And same with live plants, live product.
Yeah.
So you're looking at going into a spring season and you have, millions of dollars that are about to come in. Your doors are being shut and going, what the heck are we going to do? To, being in agriculture and being one of the first places to be able to open our doors, having to not sell our fashion products and our giftware products and only our live goods. And that being turning out to be something that everybody wanted. Everybody started to, they turned inwards into their homes, into themselves, and they wanted to work on themselves in their yards. And so all of a sudden our plant departments and seed departments and everything just exploded. Like, I have never seen anything explode so fast. So we went from wanting to stop everything and try to cancel everything. We luckily didn't cancel our plant orders because it went from 0 to 150, where our plant suppliers were rationing our orders between all the businesses. And, there was, everybody kind of had to look at their staffing at the beginning too, because when you get your doors shut, you can't keep everyone on in your company.
Right.
How can you do that? So we're lucky because we didn't have to really lay anyone off. It kind of balanced out because there was a lot of people that were scared to come to work at that time. Right. So those people, decided to, take a break from work for a little bit. And we don't have anything where you can, you're working at, most of our employees don't work in an office. So it's not something you can just do from home. So it came down to kind of a core group that we never, we knew were there, but it really made us realize who was there for our company and who really took the reins and like cared. And when, everything felt like it was falling apart, they stood up and they worked double, triple hard to make sure everything ran well. And it was a real eye opener to see who those, I call them the stars are,
Yeah.
Some of them you don't really notice until kind of situations like that happen. And then they kind of rise above everyone else. So that was one thing I really noticed, and processes that we made. So we changed our whole entrance of our business because people were going through our windmill. We're known as our windmill. Everything under the windmill were Dutch growers, and we moved it because we didn't want people squished together when they're coming through our doors, and we moved it to our greenhouse. And to this day, during spring, we still switch it because what that did is it made people walk through all of our plant section. It gave them a complete loop through our whole store, and has made it a better shopping experience for our customers. So it's not so crowded and they get a better view of all of the products. So that's something we've kept from COVID, and it's helped us so hugely in that. So yeah, I can say I think we truly grew through COVID. It was hard. It was a very scary, hard time. And then it was a lot of pivoting, but for the businesses that I think did pivot and didn't just, crunch into a ball and just think that they're going to just keep the same old processes and ways and they're going to make it through, you couldn't.
Yeah.
You had to do a complete pivot of every process that you've ever done, start up new businesses, like whether it's online or different marketing techniques. You had to change real fast. Otherwise, you were going to be left behind.
Yeah.
And you weren't going to survive.
No. And a lot of businesses didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
marketing.
Yes.
Marketing over the last 7 years. 70 years. So how did it, I'm assuming print and newspaper, radio probably was mechanisms that Dutch probably used in the past, fair to say.
Yeah. It's incredible, actually. Looking back, and we still talk about this, We call it in paper. It's called a double truck ad. And so when you open up your newspaper, and there's some of you that are listening probably have never opened up a newspaper, which is kind of crazy. But in the very middle is like your center folds, and we'd call that a double truck ad. So it would be the middle of the newspaper, both full sides, and that would be $20,000 for one day.
For one day.
Yeah, like on your weekend or whatever. And you had to pay it because that was, and that's like your premier, like you're owning the paper kind of thing. Right. And we would do that in our, prime months of like March or April or May, like when we're, in our growing months. And, but that was the only form of advertising you could do. You could do that. You could do radio. There was some billboards, but like, right. Everybody was looking at their newspaper. That was their social media.
Right.
Back then. Mm-hmm. Back then. Am I saying this? So yeah, now things have completely changed where we do very little print and really focus on social media heavily. We do radio. We have a radio show. We're looking at doing a podcast maybe eventually. That would be goals down the trench there, when we get into the trenches of marketing. But, marketing has completely changed, and the cost of marketing, because social media is, can be free. That creates a lot of opportunities to, again, I talked about one of the positions, we've hired a marketing manager, which is so big. And when I've done different courses or read up on different things, some of the biggest mistakes we make as business owners is we work so hard in our companies and then we don't spend any time or money on our marketing.
Very true.
It's so crazy, right? Yeah. So you can work all day in your store, but who's going to know it?
Exactly.
You can bring all these amazing products in, you can hire all the best teams, but if you don't market and if you don't prioritize as your marketing is one of your number one things you do every day in your business, you're going to be lost.
Yeah. No one's going to know that you're there.
No one's going to know that you're there. Yeah. So making that a priority in our company has really changed things for us.
So social media, what platforms do you use and how do you use them?
So for social media, again, it's like looking what your clientele is, who's your clientele, and figuring out what platforms they are into. For us right now, and knowing how much you can manage too. We'd love to be on everything, but to do it properly, it takes a lot of time. So our focus right now is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because we do a lot of how-to videos and that kind of thing. And then email marketing is, I know it's not like social media, but there is a lot of people that actually aren't on social media. There's a lot of people. Yeah. And there's actually a lot of successful people that I know that aren't on social media, and they do it for a reason. And so I think that's important that you have that balance. I mean, obviously we focus a huge amount, lots and lots of dollars. Like we have a full-time person, and in the spring we have basically 2 full-time people just marketing in our company, whether it's online or in store. And, but it's important to do, and it's important to put that focus in there and figuring out what your brand is so that you're not marketing something that hasn't been thought through already.
Are you promoting, thinking just about Instagram, like YouTube, It sounds like it's the how-to, but Facebook and Instagram. So you're showcasing your product, you're doing lifestyle promotion, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Doing some, like we want to always, be the experts and give that information out to people so that if there's something that's trending, like, coming up, Christmas tree decorating will be a big thing. So, doing some stuff on there, inspiring people, with the products that we have, and not always just selling to them, because nobody wants that. They want to be inspired. Yeah. They want to, buy something every once in a while, but they need to be inspired by your company and want to be looking at your page. Yeah. And if you're just selling to them all the time, they're not going to be interested. It's not going to be authentic.
Yeah.
So
authenticity.
Yeah. And, showing that you truly want to help them, and that you are truly passionate about what you believe in and what you're doing.
Right. Recently, I've become very ruthless with my social media. Like I've went through like a unfollowing kick, and I do it like every few months now. But like, and those are and I'm finding like, it's basically, I just unfollow that anything that doesn't add value or doesn't resonate with me. And I've noticed the trend between the two things that I'm unfollowing. It's one, like that they're just not authentic. Like it feels very curated and like pretty, but like not authentic, not heartfelt. And then the other one is if you're always freaking selling to me, right?
Well, yeah. And even like the influencers are just selling like literally 5 things every day. So how have you actually tried those 5 things? Yeah. Like the people that have actually tried those items and they've tested them and only show a few because these are the ones that they truly believe in. That's the people that you're going to listen to or follow or buy from long term.
Yeah.
You know?
So influencers, Dutch growers, just because I obviously follow you guys.
Yeah.
And you use influencers.
Yes.
So how did that start? Does it still add value? What's your thought process on influencers or the use of it?
I think it's really important because if you're just talking to your audience all the time, you're just talking to the same people, and to grow a business, you need to grow your audience. And so by bringing an influencer in and talking about some of your products, it's important because all of a sudden then you're hitting the 10,000 people that are following them. And then they may take that and send it to, you know, maybe a 5,000 or 500 people that one person follows. So I think just not thinking that you were the end all and all of everything just because you've got a big following in your business. You got to open yourself up to different people.
Okay. So 25-year-old Nikki is...
Yes. Well, I am 25. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So Nikki today, without Dutch growers, has this idea for a business and wants to get started. What advice would you give her?
Well, build a business plan first. Have that, have the vision and true passion behind it, like a fire, and be able to see it, and manifest it, and believe in yourself is the number one thing. Because if you don't believe in yourself that you can do it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So you have to have seen yourself doing that business already for it to work. And then putting together a business plan, I'd put together a brand book of, what my brand was all about. And then looking at, who you're going to surround yourself with, who's going to help you build this business. Is it feasible to bring those people in right from the start? Because not all the time it is. Yeah. And knowing that it's going to be 5 to 6 years of full-time, overtime work with maybe no extra profit when you start.
Right.
And being okay with that. Because if you're not okay with putting in overtime hours every week to start a business, I wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, go into business and think that that's not what they need to do. And they can just hire someone and, kind of be at the space where I am where, now I can leave today and come do this podcast with you because I've got a group of people that are running things. Well, that's not the case when you first start a business. So you got to have that mindset of like, you're dedicated to work and do it. Mm-hmm. And
so change. You're craving change. What is next?
Just what is the next thing that we can roll it in our company? What is that, next little business that we can maybe start up, or maybe just do a tweak to something we're already doing, or how can we use our space differently? Or these are just always the things that are, should be flowing through an entrepreneur's mind, I think. And, just how can we grow? Like, when you see the kind of numbers where they are, and you just, you kind of see, you're kind of going from COVID, we were doing really great and like everything, from really bad to like really good. And now we're kind of leveling out to kind of our, numbers back to 2019.
Right.
And kind of going, well, I like the numbers from before and how can we get back up there? We have to do something different.
Yeah.
Because they're not just going to come just if we just keep doing what we're doing now. So just how can we grow our business in new and exciting ways? And I just love that. I think it's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this won't come out for like 5 or 6 months. So can you share some of the ideas that you're thinking about? And they don't have to make the final edit. I'm happy to edit it up. I'm just curious.
Oh, I don't, there's lots of things. Like, I mean, we'd love to do like a podcast, maybe. We've just built a new greenhouse with a whole area for all of our pottery department, like a whole new pottery department.
Okay.
And so that's creating some new space within our greenhouse. So just kind of, seeing what we can do with our space. We've got a great opportunity to have, a classroom area, or maybe an area where businesses can come in and use this like plant-filled environment to do a little meeting at. Or I don't know, just I haven't really got any specific ideas, just a lot of like little things and just a lot of new things that I want to implement in our company, which I'd love to just like rattle your mind about, like HR development, like planning and different things. So, and just, which would then bring better, employee retention, I think, which then I think could grow our company. So there's just so many different aspects that I can't really come to like one solid thing right now.
Which is a good place to be,
I guess.
But just thinking about like employee retention, and I'm just thinking about, because you're talking about branding and who Dutch Growers is in alignment with that, as well as like staff retention. One thing I'm noticing is the social aspect of what type of companies, like these young people coming up, when they're selecting which companies to work for, which industries to work for, that social piece is so important for them. Right? Like, and I noticed even when I was teaching that one class on campus, this next generation of kids is so special in the sense that they're like so kind. They look out for each other. They really have that collective mindset, and they don't put up with shit. Like they're not working. Like if they don't like the values of a company, they're not gonna sign up to work for that company. Right. And like, so Dutch already does so much of this. Like it's a very green, sustainable business in the sense that you're in plants and gardening and that type of stuff. Right. Like, but also like, so sustainability is something, and you guys were one of the first in the city here to switch to paper bags and look for different materials and things like that, right? Like I think that's something that's really important, but also just inclusive models and some of those other kind of other social issues that you kind of indirectly chosen to tackle through use of social media and things like that too. But like, I think if you could promote some of those values, that would help, by, especially because you employ a lot of young people too. Yeah. Just the social side of it. Like I've noticed it's just more of a discussion. It gets asked more in interviews. Like it just seems to matter a lot more. Yeah.
I think you just need to be aware of what's going on in the world and not just think that it doesn't apply to your business. Like it's there and you have to be considerate of it. And you do have to, like, just doing the right thing.
Yes.
And everything that you do, whether little or like even the littlest thing, can make a huge impact out in the world or to your employees. And I think just making sure that every choice that you make, whether it's like something you're putting on social media, you're thinking about how that impacts others. And does everybody feel included and safe and, loved and all those things, and making sure that, we're not being, excluding anyone. You can just get into your bubble of like our own. And I think that's what I did first. Like we did for so long, is like, you just see the people that are working in your store and, we'd use them just for models. And it's like, well, that's not representing Saskatoon, so that's what made us like, go out to and actually use some of the local modeling agencies, which not only made us more inclusive, the different people that live in Saskatoon, but also helped out another small business, which was a local modeling agency.
Right.
So, just looking beyond ourselves, and I think being more part of the community instantly helps you see who your community is and making sure that you're being inclusive to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. And Dutch already does that. So it's really just talking about it.
Yeah.
more.
And often you can just, you cannot be by just ignorance. Like you're just working every day, pricing your items, like putting it on social media. You're not meaning to, but you have to be aware. And that's something I think I've really learned like especially in the last 3 years, that I need to just wake up. And it's not just like what I see in our store every day. I need to like look around, you know, and so it's good. It's growing.
Yeah. That's a really good lesson for a lot of small businesses as well, I think, or any size business, right? Look around your local community.
Yeah.
Not just because I think, again, social media is a bit of a bubble, but it's also like the world's issues.
Yeah. And I think giving back to your community is a huge part in that too. And, you know, making sure that you're part of the community and that you're giving back to different, you know, aspects of that, and really choosing maybe like one, like you mentioned, we did chocolate cure, like we are trying to raise money to buy purchase equipment for the Saskatoon Cancer Agency or Cancer Center. And, so just like that's something that's really true to our hearts. And so that's kind of our big one that we focus on. And then there's just sort of all the little, you know, other community events and things that we do. But I think really making sure that you're giving back to the community is so important as a business owner.
Yeah. Okay. I think we got it.
Okay.